Hey everybody, this is Athletes and Antiquities. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to make intelligent and rational decisions in the Pokemon hobby. So there's a common saying that I'm sure you've all heard that goes, give a man to fish and he'll eat for a day, teach a man to fish and he'll eat for life. Now this is an important kind of like mantra for pretty much all aspects of life, but I particularly want to talk about that in terms of Pokemon or any collectible in general, whether it's comics or sports cards, whatever it may be, because when people enter this hobby, they ask a lot of questions, but I think sometimes they're asking the wrong questions, and those questions they're asking aren't really teaching them anything. It's more about like they want validation for a decision they've already made. So guys like Scott Pratt, Jake from Pokenomics, Dan from Catch 'em All Collectibles, Rusty from TCA Gaming, these guys get bombarded with questions like, how will this sealed product do? Should I buy this single? Should I hold this booster box for 5 years? Should I open it? Should I keep it sealed? What do you think this PSA 10 population will be in a month? Stuff like that. And it's fun to hear what these guys have to say about stuff like that. But at the end of the day, them answering that question for you doesn't really teach you much. It's because their knowledge isn't about, what is their decision on if you should keep your Chilling Reign booster box sealed. Their knowledge is more about how to identify their answer, basically. Like, how do they come to that conclusion, and what in the knowledge it took to kind of understand, hey, this might be a little bit risky, this might be a little bit less risky. That's kind of where their value lies. And so I have a very simple rule when it comes to buying and selling that I want to tell you guys about, that because it's worked for me for about 12 years now, of being more seriously in the hobby. I've been in the hobby since the early EX era, but I didn't, and once it took me until probably like middle school, high school to really be able to actually start purchasing things, because I started having a job and stuff like that. But since all my time in the hobby, I've just had two sentences essentially that I've based all my decisions off of, and it's, if I value the item more than the market does, I buy it. If I value the item less than the market does, I sell it. And there's no secret formula there. There's nothing like, no big brain, blow your mind kind of stuff. But it's such a simple rule. But if you just abide by that rule, you're gonna do fine. So I'm gonna use alternate arts to kind of exhibit this point. I know you're all probably rolling your eyes because I've talked about alternate arts a lot, and some people think I've been critical of alternate arts, but I really want to explain kind of my opinion on them. And I'm going to use my little mantra here that I go off of to explain that. And basically, like I said, if I value a card more than the market does, I'll buy it. If it's the opposite, I'll sell it. So with things like Moonbryon, I personally value that card less than the market does. So I'm not a buyer at that price, and I have been vocal saying, I'm not really big on that card right now, just because of its price point in relation to what it is, in my opinion. And there are guys that disagree with that. I know there's somebody that occasionally comments on my YouTube channel. I think his name, I believe, is Moonbryon, but his logo is the Moonbryon. And he's obviously a huge Moonbryon fan, so he would disagree with that. And neither one of us are right or wrong, but he might value that card more than the market does, so he's a buyer. But since I value that item less than the market does, I'm a seller. And like I said, there's no right or wrong there. But I'm not a hater of alternate arts. And I want to show you these two cards to show you that. These two cards I picked up recently. This is from the Japanese version of, Crown Zenith that just came out. And these are two of the most beautiful cards in the hobby. And I got both of these for about $20 in total. And for that price, I'm a buyer all day, every day. I think I personally value these cards more than the hobby does. So I'm a buyer of these two cards. I was very excited to pick them up. But if these two cards were priced at what the Moonbryon is priced at, no chance. I would not be a buyer. But if you really look at them, I'll put a Moonbryon on screen to compare to them. Like, the Moonbryon is a beautiful art, but so are these, and these are, you know, a small percent of the price. So obviously, I'm a buyer of these. Just for, you know, $10 for an alternate art Deoxys of, you know, him being beamed up by that like UFO Rotom, or the Regigigas like pulling the continent. If you aren't familiar, the lore behind that is like Regigigas moved all the continents into place. So this art kind of depicts that and stuff like that. Like, these are phenomenal cards. I'm a buyer at that card personally, but there's no right or wrong answer. So that's why when you ask these guys, you know, oh, should I open this? Should I keep it sealed? Should I sell this? Should I buy that? Like, it's a very situational question. It's a very hard question to answer, and you aren't learning anything with the answer. If Scott Pratt comes out and says, I love the Legendary Treasures Charizard, I'm buying that card. That doesn't mean that everybody should go out in droves and buy it. He just personally values that card more than what maybe the market does. I'm gonna show you some other cards that I personally, you know, value a lot right now that I've been kind of collecting. This isn't like a way to slyly shill my own interests, because I don't really care about that, because I'm not gonna sell these. It's more just about talk about cards that I ignore the market and just go off of what I personally value, because that has worked in the past very well. Like this card, the Lenticular Deoxys. It's kind of hard to see because it's a little bit dark. I'll actually take it out of the sleeve because it's a pretty thick card, so I'm not worried about ruining it. But this card has a lenticular surface to it, so as the light bounces off of it, it actually changes the Deoxys form and changes its like abilities and stuff. So this card is so unique. I've never seen another Pokemon card like it, so I am a buyer of this card at its price. I just think it's a great card. Does that mean it'll stonk? No, but like, I don't really care. Like Halo, one of the most popular video game franchises of all time. You can buy cards from when Halo 3 came out that are one-of-one physical sketch cards on a blank card. Like, this guy actually held this card and drew this picture. Cards like this are so cheap for what you're getting, because that's an actual piece of hand-drawn art. The Star Wars essentially rookie cards from 1977. I'm a huge buyer of cards like this. I think they're great cards to, they're beautiful cards. They're very significant to one of the largest IPs ever. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I'm a huge buyer of these cards. And even with other sports cards too. For how big sports cards are, I personally think that there's some cards that the hobby just doesn't value for what they are. And one of these is like this set is from like the 1950s or 1960s. It's called like Topps Embossed or something. I forget the exact name, but some of the first holographic cards ever printed. From the 50s and 60s, they were making this gold leaf kind of technology. Great cards, and like cards like this I'm picking up, and this isn't to say that you should as well, but that's just where I value that. So when you ask a guy like Scott Pratt or whoever what to buy, you're not really learning the why, because more of the how you can do well in the hobby is identify cards that have a very large disparity of what you value them at versus what the market does. Because if you value something a certain way, chances are a lot of people do as well. If you are a true collector and you think, wow, that card is phenomenal, that art is phenomenal, that's such a rare card, but it's only a few dollars, how is that possible? That's a great example of a card that you're probably right about. But people overthink things, and they hyper analyze, oh my gosh, this Chilling Reign booster box, is it gonna stonk in the next month? What's gonna happen? How many of these were printed? How many have been opened? They're doing all these mental gymnastics, and simply just look at the item and say, do you like that item? And if you do, what price do you like that item at? Because everybody likes something at a price. I like, what's a good example? I don't know. I like level X cards. They're the Diamond and Pearl level X cards, but in high grade, I don't like them at that price, so I'm not a buyer. And there's no harm in that. There's identify things that you like and you'll do better. If you're buying cards you don't like, you don't have an emotional value on that card. So it's very hard to identify, is that a good card or not? Because if I buy, if I like, let's say I really like this Victory Cup card. Let's say I bought it for $100. But you know, that was a great buy for me. I love this art of the Victini in the bowl, the first place, you know, black and white era, very condition sensitive. You had to win this event to win this card. It's like a poor man's trophy card. It's in pretty decent condition. I loved this card, and I saw the price, whatever I bought it at. It was somewhere around 100, maybe a little bit more. And I snapped it up because I valued it more than that. So if this card goes down in value, I'm not really that affected because the price I bought it at was a good emotional price. And that's really all you can really do in this hobby. It's very hard to speculate on the emotion of an entire hobby. So instead, just speculate on the emotion of yourself and bank on the fact that, you know, people might agree with you. I bought this Kareem Abdul-Jabbar card because it's a phenomenal shot of his skyhook. Maybe someone else will value that too. And I don't plan on selling it. It's a PC card. If the hobby catches up to me, in quotes obviously, but if the hobby also attaches value to that, it might go up in value. And that's kind of how I make my decisions. And it's worked very well for me for the past well over a decade. So I just wanted to kind of make this video. If you're new to the hobby, or even if you're not, my main piece of advice is don't overthink. Don't overanalyze. It's good to analyze, it's good to have educated decisions, but at the end of the day, these are emotional cards, so going with your gut is a very valid strategy. And if you're very knowledgeable, if you're very emotionally attached to this hobby, your gut is probably stronger than any sort of analytic, any sort of data you can really find online. If you like, a good example, I said it in a previous video, but like Ancient Mew, you know, if you look at the numbers, you'd think, oh my god, this card is so overvalued, it's gonna crash. Its populations are exorbitant for its price. But then you really take a step back, you realize, hey, you know, it's an emotional card. People just like it, and it's fine. And they know that it's not rare, but they just love it, so they're gonna pay for it. And like that knowledge could trump hours of research to get to that same conclusion. If you're a genuine collector, you have a massive edge, so use that edge. Use your emotions, use your opinions, and I think you'll do fine. So this isn't telling you what to buy, this is just saying, hey, before you buy something, stop and think, do you actually like it? And if not, be much more cautious, because if you don't like it, and you're throwing big money at it, and it goes down in value, what do you have? You know, if this goes to zero, I don't care because I love this card. That's kind of the strategy to take with this hobby, and I think if you do that, you'll do fine. So let me know if you like this video. It was kind of rambly, so I apologize for that, but it was more of just like a talk about kind of the emotion of a collector, and just to kind of, you know, take a deep breath essentially with this hobby, because at the end of the day, we're doing this for fun. So overanalyzing only goes so far. So yeah, let me know what you think. I'll see you next time.